This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Good night, and if you're in China, good morning. This is the Daniel Greenfield moment, named after me, Daniel Greenfield. This is part of the Glazov Gang, named after Jamie Glazov. And if you like this video, which I'm saying a bit prematurely, be sure to support the Glazov Gang, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Tonight we're going to discuss something that never actually happens in real life, Islamic terrorism, except it seems like it just happened in real life, and quite a bunch of times. So what's behind all this? Well, the simple answer is Islamic immigration. If you get Islamic immigration, you get Islamic terror. The two kind of go together like peanut butter and jelly. If you don't like peanut butter and jelly, well, you're probably an Islamic terrorist. So tonight, let's actually look more and more at where all this is going. The basic part of the problem is that integration, countering violent extremism, none of this has worked. We've significantly increased Islamic immigration. We've dramatically increased the Muslim population in the United States since September 11th. The practical consequence of that is an increase in Islamic terror. It's not just happening in Europe, it's now happening more and more in this country. Obama has hit the 10,000 mark. The vast majority of that 10,000 obviously are Muslim. He's been very careful about keeping Christians out. There have been hardly any Christian Syrian refugees. The vast majority of that great 10,000, the 10,000 was celebrated by the media, are Muslim. And again, every time we bring these people here, it's a ticking time bomb, and eventually at some point the time bomb goes off. Now, the Minnesota attack was rather suspiciously similar to the Westgate attack that took place in Kenya. Now, the Westgate shopping mall attack in Kenya involved Somali Muslim terrorists. The terrorists asked people there if they were Muslim before they were actually attacking them, before they actually killed them. And the assailant in the Minnesota mall attack asked the people who was attacking if they were Muslims. So we do see a certain kind of overlap there. The terror group that was responsible for the Westgate attack has close links to the Somali Muslim migrant community in Minnesota. So it's not at all inconceivable that there is a connection there. ISIS already claimed credit for that attack. And the reality is that as we increase Muslim immigration, we're going to have more and more people who will be very happy to be so-called lone wolves volunteering to line up to just kill a bunch of Americans. And the reality is that we're increasing our risk. So Obama's 10,000 Syrians, a poll showed that 13% of Syrian refugees were supporters of ISIS. Around a third were supporters of Al-Qaeda. So that 1,300 new cases right there. That's more than the FBI is already investigating in the United States. And the simple reality is that we've switched from this we recently commemorated the anniversary of September 11th. That was a more complex operation. It took years and years of planning. It took quite a bit of work. The kinds of attacks that we're advancing now, the kinds that we're dealing with now, are much smaller scale. They depend really on just reaching one guy who's going to be able to kill a whole bunch of people. And even if it doesn't kill a whole bunch of people, this kind of just drumbeat of attacks, one attack here, another attack there, one plot broken up, one that sort of succeeds. This guy stabs a few people, maybe doesn't even kill anybody, but the people he stabs, those people have ongoing medical problems that might linger on for decades. The people around them who have been traumatized, those people are going to need psychological counseling. Some of them are going to have nightmares for the rest of their lives. Anyone who's been exposed to that is already a walking wounded. They have family members, and if you think about it, even in an attack that's officially non-fatal, where a few people are stabbed, the actual circle of people affected are in the dozens, possibly even in the hundreds, and that's for a non-fatal attack. When you actually get to a fatal attack, when even only a few people are killed, the numbers just increase vastly. And again, we did see this sort of situation in Israel. We're still seeing the situation in Israel, where you just have this kind of drumbeat of attacks, one after the other, and a lot of these attacks may not be fatal. They do leave significant scars, and they create a situation where people are just aware that they're constantly living under the shadow of terror, and this is what Islamic terrorists strive to create. Their goal is to make life as it is unlivable for us. Again, this is what we are now seeing. And after September 11th, people were very concentrated on avoiding the next big attack, but the next big attack was never really the issue. September 11th was obviously horrifying, But the thing we really have to worry about is the result of this regular siege of terror, this kind of ongoing daily terror wave that completely deprives us of our freedom, of our sense of self, of our sense of security. The goal of Islamic terrorists, their ultimate goal, is to show that our way of life is unworkable, that we can only find peace. Islam does indeed mean peace, as they've pointed out, but it means a very different kind of peace. What it means is peace under the authority of Islam, which means submission to Islam. It means submission to the Caliphate, to Allah, to Muhammad, to Muslim rule. So the only place we can find peace, and by that we mean peace from Muslim terror, obviously, is under Muslim rule. Now, obviously, that doesn't work too well in real life because if you look at the Muslim world, there is not a whole lot of peace there. So you can't find peace under Islam either. But they just continually emphasize that our way of life, that our way of existence, that this kind of supposedly secular life is going to be disrupted, it's going to be destroyed on a day-to-day basis, that we're not going to have any peace other than Islam. But of course, we can have a very simple peace. We can achieve peace easily enough by ending Islamic immigration. So what we cannot have is peace and Islam in the same place, in the same country, in the same land. Every Muslim terror attack reminds us of that simple fact. Peace and Islam are not compatible. If we want a peaceful life, then we need to actually end Islamic immigration and rethink the role of Islam in our countries. That's the very simple decision we have to make, and we have to think about it. Can we really accept this? Do we want to accept this kind of daily terror? Do we want to accept a way of life in which we can never have security? Do we want to accept a way of life in which we look at the news and go, oh God, I hope there hasn't been a stabbing today. I hope there hasn't been a shooting. I hope there hasn't been a bombing. I hope that nobody got behind the wheel of a truck and drove it into 50 people. I hope that nobody blew up a nightclub. I hope that nobody shot up the place where I usually am. Now, the New York City bombings, that story is still developing, but this is an area I know really well. We don't necessarily know that it was Islamic terrorists, but it is a bit surreal because I flew out of New York City just at the end of last week, and this is an area I know well, and if I hadn't flown out, for all I know, I could have been there. And this is a reaction I've had plenty of times because New York has been a common target of Islamic terror. The day before September 11th, I was actually in the area and I was looking around near the World Trade Center and thinking, thank God their attack, their original World Trade Center bombing didn't work, because can you imagine if it had worked? And the next day, well, we found out what happened if it did work. And this is the kind of world we live in, the one where there's a thin tissue of reality that separates us from the next atrocity. And it could be us, it could be any of us at any time. Obviously, we complain about the TSA. The TSA may not be very useful, but imagine the TSA everywhere. That's also the kind of world we're moving to. So the question is, do we want to accept this? Do we consider Islamic immigration to be a valid trade-off? Now, I know a lot of the people listening to this already agree with me, but this is the question you need to formulate, you need to put forward to friends and family, to other people around you who really reject the idea of a Muslim immigration ban, who say that Trump or anybody else raising the idea is completely out of line. Do they actually want to live this way? Is this a way of life that they find acceptable? Do they want to get up each morning wondering, who got shot today? Who got blown up today? Do they want to live in America where every city looks like Chicago, except it's not a bunch of gangsters, it's a bunch of terrorists who are out to destroy our way of existence? And for all these daily attacks, nothing precludes another major terrorist attack like September 11th. It could very well happen. These are really the stakes here. And an attack like that could happen next time around with NBC. That means nuclear, biological, chemical weapons. We've allowed Iran to basically go nuclear. Pakistan has nuclear materials. And both of these countries are major state sponsors of terror, one Shiite, one Sunni. So worst thing could very well be coming. The question is, are we ready to do anything about it? Are we ready to make adult decisions? Are we ready to say, we do not want to live this way? Because for the moment, we have not said it. And until we say it, until we make it clear we do not want to live this way, we do not find this acceptable, we want real peace. And to have real peace, we have to do without Islam. Until we are ready to say that, then we will indeed have no peace. Thank you very much for listening. This has been the Daniel Greenfield Moment. And again, as I've said before, if you like this video, if you support these videos, subscribe to the YouTube channel for the Glazov Gang, help out, donate, contribute, keep us on the air, the virtual air. And most importantly of all, think about the things we're saying and what part you can play in helping make that happen. Thank you very much, and have a good night. If you're in China, good morning.